Hey everyone, Yanshil here from Upfly. Today, I'm so excited to introduce my friend Davidson Young, whom I used to work with at Google Singapore. The reason that I invite him for a talk today is because he made crazy, brave decisions for his career. He had been in HR over 15 years, working for big international companies such as Google, Ituit, and Gap. After that, he pursued his entrepreneur journey, coaching tech professionals in leadership and career development. What's more interesting is that he actually decided to start over his career as an intern in UX design. That's right, as an intern. Today's episode is actually one of my favorite ones till now, so I'm pretty sure that you will enjoy whether you are in your early career stage or later. Are you ready? Let's get started. Thank you so much, Davidson.
Welcome. I'm looking forward to having this discussion.
So first of all, like many of my audience might feel like, oh my God, this guy was like head of like HR, like campus recruiting or something. And then how on earth he became the UX intern, right? So I just wanted to start from like why you decided to leave Google and start over your career.
While in Singapore, and actually before even Singapore, I was thinking about what do I want to do in my career next, right? Because I've been in college recruiting for quite a long time. I think it was like 10 years in recruiting at that point.
Right.
And I was already kind of itching, like, what do I want to do? Like I consider myself a learner. If I'm not really learning, I'm probably not as excited, right? So I was already contemplating my next steps. Would I stay in HR? Would I do learning and development? Would I go into leadership coaching and all that? But one of the things that kind of hit me is that I ran into like terrible managers in Singapore, right? Oftentimes when you start thinking about changing careers or changing companies, it's not necessarily about the job itself.
Right.
It's actually more about the people, right? And that was clear, like for me, one of the reasons why, I started thinking about like actually leaving Google and thinking about doing something else.
People think like, oh my God, Google is like number one employer in the world, right? Like to work for. It was such a big leap for you, right? Because like you were in the mid-career, you already built a lot of things, but were you not really scared? How did you?
Oh, heck yeah, I was scared. Like it was, I mean, and I do want to say like, I still think Google is the best company to work for. I think they overall, they treat employees amazing. They provide great opportunities. You learn a lot, you get paid really well. The scary part was really more about like, financially, right? So what do I do now to survive? We get into this level of lifestyle, right? So that was scary and leaving that for the unknown, right?
Right.
I was definitely scared. I mean, like I went back and forth about like stick it out and like find something at Google, which, I kind of tried, but really I think deep down in my heart, I was already ready to move on to something else.
After quitting your, campus recruiting job, like you move on to leadership coaching, right? And then a lot of people might think that, oh, it makes sense because like he was in HR, he dealt with a lot of managers, he knows how to coach. So that transition kind of like makes sense to me as well. But I was curious why you decided to move on to like completely different field from the HR expert position.
So I was doing coaching and conducting like new manager training, and then so one of my clients was actually a UX designer.
Right.
So we were practicing to do this her presentation the next day, which was for the CEO and other executives.
Right.
So we were going through her presentation, and she was basically walking through like the design process. And it was at that point I was like, wow, this is actually really interesting. Like I never thought of UX as that way, right? So you understand the problem that users are having, you understand the goal of the business, and you create like interactions to meet both of those goals, right?
Right.
So that I became really curious after that. So I think it was that night that I started reading blogs. I bought a book on Amazon and started reading it. Then I was like, wow, this is actually really interesting. I want to, try to do this, right? So I looked at like online courses. I took some courses on Coursera, tried to do that. And then I think it was probably, maybe 6 months, 7 months down the road where I was like, I think I want to do this. Later on, I think it was like November, December, when a friend of mine who is actually a UX director at Uber said, hey, you should check out, the master's program at UC Irvine. Okay, that sounds really cool. So I looked into it, and then in December, I started the application process to get in. Got accepted the program, and then it was a long process. It wasn't necessarily like, oh, this is really cool, I'm going to do this. I kind of took the steps to essentially make sure that this is something that I'm really interested in as far as a career.
But I think it's a crazy brave, like, of course, like many people would like find out some other path and I read about it, but not many people actually pull the trigger. I'm pretty sure that a lot of Korean people hesitated. Korea is such an age-conscious society. So like many people say, hey, in my 30, I need to do this. In my 40, I can't change anything. In my 50, I have to do this, right? Yeah. So I think it's such a brave move. But at the same time, I'm pretty sure that you had some moment like, oh, I used to be ahead of something, but now like I am an intern, right? Yeah. Could you give me some experience?
You know who I am?
You know who I am? I used to run this team, right?
So maybe the good thing, and hopefully people take this the right way, Asians, Koreans, and Filipinos, we don't age that much, right? Yeah. At least in terms of.
I don't know how old you are.
So we may, you still look 20. Yeah. So I think there's an advantage there. But yeah, I mean, like when I was interning, so I interned last year at SAP, I was 41, right, at that point. And here I am with interns that are, sophomores in college. What's that, 20 or 19 even?
Right.
So at the beginning, it felt weird. Like, what am I doing? Like, being with these kids. But, I think I have sort of a youthful personality. I get along well with younger audience, especially like doing college recruiting for so long. But yeah, so one funny story, like even starting off in my full-time job, like everybody else is kind of what they would consider early career. So this 21-year-old or 22-year-old from Germany, and then two other, employees and I were chatting just one day, and they talked about something about age, and I said, I'm not as young as you probably think I am, right? and they're like, how old are you? Like, and I was like, well, I'm 41, and they're like shocked. I was 41. Like they would have guessed 27 or what. But yeah, I mean, it felt weird for a little bit. Now, I think it's I'm totally fine with it. I'm comfortable with my own abilities and where I am. I understand that I'm still fairly new, and that's part of it.
Yeah.
So I was confident that I'll progress well. Like I'll learn really quickly. I can use my leadership skills and my previous experience within the job. So even in my role, I'm taking on more of a leadership role. My boss had included me in the leadership team conversation, even though I didn't have a title or anything like that. So that's part of my.
Because you stand out from your experience, right?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Although you are not the UX designer, but still like you were in the corporate world for a while, and then you learn a lot from past 10 years
Yeah.
ish, right? So you can actually contribute like different perspective. I can see why they respect you more in that way.
Yeah, I think, like one of the great, like the person that hired me saw that as the potential. So I'm grateful that he didn't look at me just as a UX designer. He's like, okay, what can we leverage from his experience,
Right?
And actually make the team or the project better using his experience. So, I'm lucky in that sense that, he did consider that.
I was curious. Did he actually ask a lot of questions about why you changed your career? How did you tell him?
In my resume that I submitted, and I actually ended up taking out all of my HR roles and experience from my resume. So I really just concentrated on UX. And that was a kind of a conscious decision because I didn't want people to say, oh, this guy's an HR guy, he's a manager. Why would he want an internship?
Right.
I didn't want that to get in the way, right? I wanted to eliminate that chance. But he actually went to my LinkedIn profile and looked down all the way on my experience. And he brought up, oh, so you were doing leadership development and coaching.
Yeah.
How would you leverage that in this job? So he brought it up. I didn't necessarily bring it up.
Right. Just like, I just wanted to just add one resume here because a lot of like Korean people just like jamming all the information on the resume as much as possible, not missing any single thing. But actually your approach makes sense a lot more because, the other person cares about only that specific matter, right? They don't care about other things. That in that case, I think dropping some of the stuff that are really not going to help this position, you can actually take it out.
Yeah. Recruiters are looking for very specific things. We want a computer science major from the top universities who's worked on mobile, right? They have essentially a checklist, right? Because they're only reviewing resumes for like 10 seconds.
Right.
Anything that's off of that, like doesn't fit that checklist, they probably will discount, right? Because I was a recruiter, I would discount like weird things or like would pause at like weird resumes, right? So you almost want to dumb it down for them so that they can make this really quick decision whether to like consider you further, right?
So, okay, if you want to give like one advice to those like who want to change their career, what would that be?
I think it's probably like a sort of a self-assessment in terms of what you're willing to do and what you want to do, right? So totally understand people's circumstances about having like mortgage payments and kids, kids cost a lot, right? At least from what I understand. Right. So you have those obligations, especially, if you're the primary sort of breadwinner, right? That's a lot of pressure and that's a lot of stress. But, doing a self-assessment in terms of like, what can I sacrifice? How long is this going to take to transition?
Right.
If I end up transitioning, what might my salary be? All of that stuff, and list the skills that you possess that you believe you can transfer to the next career path.
Right.
What are the gaps that you have, and then how do you acquire those gaps? Right. For me, like I knew I needed to get like a formal education because the skill gap was very wide, right? So jumping from HR to UX is a huge leap.
Right.
For other people, transitioning from, say, finance to marketing may not be as huge of a leap. So is there a path where I work for a large corporation, I can get into marketing because of the internal recruitment process, right? Maybe I can do an internal internship with a marketing team, right? Or maybe I can start working with the marketing team and that way I can learn from them. Right. So there's other paths, not just what I did, which, again, was necessary.
Right.
But having that sort of skill gap analysis may help you. Right. And even internally, moving internally may not be that huge of a sort of a step down in terms of salary or level, but there's still some sacrifice. So you have to be honest with yourself and, be willing to say, okay, I accept this like $10,000 pay cut or whatever it is, and we can make do for another year,
Right.
and we'll be fine.
Is there anything that you wish you knew earlier, or you want to just like say to entire audience?
I think, things kind of worked out to my plan, right? I got into grad school, I got an internship, I got a full-time job before even I graduated, right? So everything worked out. But I think what I probably would have done was do a lot more networking, and meeting with people in UX, putting myself out there, just to have like more of a breadth of like sort of connections and potential opportunities. I was really focused on academics and like doing really well and honing my skills, and not necessarily the networking part. I did a little bit of it, but I probably could have done a lot more of it before and during my grad school. Even now, like I think I should be doing more networking in my field, because my past network is all HR stuff for the most part, right? So yeah, like find ways to connect with people, over lunch in your company, etc. So leverage that and continue to do it.
Thank you so much,
Awesome.
Davidson.
Thank you, Ashil.
Now, Davidson and I would love to hear from you. We talked about Davidson's biggest career decisions, fears, and beliefs. I'm curious, what's the major insight you're taking away from this conversation and how you want to apply for these to your situation? Please leave a comment below and let us know. If you'd like to receive lots of practical advice and latest information about career development, use the link below to subscribe to Upfly newsletter. Thank you so much for watching this today, and I'll see you next Thursday. Bye!